Hong Kong Direct is your weekly racing wrap with news, views, previews, interviews and special guests. Coming up on the show today, we're looking forward and looking back as well. Beauty Generation back in the big time after a win in the Queen's Silver Jubilee Cup last weekend, and looking forward to the Classic Cup this weekend. First four back from the Classic mark, including Francis Lloyd's dynamic duo of More Than This and Golden 60. Very warm welcome to the show. I'm Andrew Le Jeune. Very pleased to say we're joined by champion jockey Zac Purton and South China Morning Post racing rider Trenton Akers, overlooking the winning post here at Sha Tin Racecourse. Zac, thanks for coming out this morning. Great time of year as well. The anticipation now going into the second leg of the four-year-old series.
Yeah, it's a good time of year. It's when all our horses start to come together. The jigsaw starts to fall into place and become more complete. This weekend is going to give us a better guide on that as well.
And Trenton, it's not just about this weekend of the Derby, just a month away, but this crop of four-year-olds, in theory, there are Group 1 horses for next season and beyond as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You only got to look at what Waikuku did earlier this season as well. He ran second in the Derby last year and came out. So there's always an eye to the future with these horses in there. So that's the interesting part, seeing who comes out of the four-year-old series and performs in open company. And a bittersweet weekend you're coming off, Zac. We're going to have a look at the races in a moment, but Beauty Generation, amazing to see him back winning again, but Exultant, you'd be a bit frustrated with him?
Yeah, he's just a horse that doesn't have a lot of tactical speed. From that gate, it was always going to be a little bit difficult. Having to go back in a slowly run race was just the undoing for him. And, that's racing, unfortunately. All
right, well, let's have a look at it now. Review the two Group 1s from Sha Tin last weekend, the Queen's Silver Jubilee Cup and the City Hong Kong Gold Cup with Ed Sadler.
Two-star veterans of the Hong Kong racing scene stole the show on Sunday at Sha Tin as Time Warp and Beauty Generation basked in their Group 1 glory one more time. A seemingly out-of-form Time Warp turned back the clock in the Hong Kong Gold Cup, making all under an inspired Joe Moreira to secure his third victory at the top level.
Exultant still got 5 to make up here on Time Warp, who's kicking Citron Spirit. Exultant and Eagle Way coming Ho-Ho Khan. Time Warp, what a gem of a ride from Moreira. Time Warp takes out the City Hong Kong Gold Cup.
The horse himself tries his best, He's proven to be a very good horse. He has won some of the big races in town, and once again he proved that he's still got it, He's not getting any younger, but when he is able to bring his very best, he can do things what he's done today.
Time Warp's triumph came at the expense of his highly fancied stablemate Exultant, who was beaten as the $1.20 favourite. A possible overseas adventure to Dubai is now off the cards for Exultant, and he will instead stay in Hong Kong to target the QE2 Cup in April, a race that he finished second in last year. Like Time Warp, Beauty Generation's best days at the races may be behind him, but Hong Kong's Master Miler showed that he still has what it takes to win a Group 1 level when taking out the Queen's Silver Jubilee Cup.
Beauty Generation in front, the champ's lifting strongly, and he's going to get his third victory in the Queen's Silver Jubilee Cup, his third crown, and 8 Group 1s now for the champ, Beauty Generation.
We've got him back on song again, and the racing public out there are, we're going to say our champ is back.
Star Sprinter Beat the Clock produced an uncharacteristically poor performance to finish 5th in the race, the first time ever that he's finished out of the top 4 in his career. 1 week on from the elder stars of Hong Kong racing shining on the track, it will be the next crop of elite performers who will take centre stage this Sunday at Sha Tin, with the running of the second leg of the 4-year-old Classic Series, the Hong Kong Classic Cup.
We'll get into the 4-year-old series in due course, part 2 for the Classic Cup. But Zac, Beauty Generation, that's 8 Group 1s now, $98 million, exactly to the penny in prize money. What were the emotions like? Because, it was a comeback win. Must have been different to maybe some of his other victories?
Yeah, it was. Obviously, last season we were just going out there expecting to win every race, and we come back this season thinking that was going to happen as well, the way he started off. But the first run this season took a lot out of him. He's been a little bit flat since. John was very confident that he had him back in his best form, and he showed that. It wasn't much of a field really. We had a lot of sprinters there trying to stretch themselves out in distance, and Carrying Stars, he's an honest horse, but he's probably not really Group 1 medal, to be honest. In my mind, I expected him to be able to win that race, and he did that. He didn't do it in the dominant fashion that we're used to seeing him do it in, but a win's a win, and It was satisfying. I know the family appreciated the win, as did John, and I think it probably just puts a little bit more of the stardust on the end of his career as well.
Yeah, the punters were onto him though, Trenton, because I thought Beat the Clock in the market was going to run him very close or even run favourite, but Beauty Generation, it was the price of old, 1.6, and Beat the Clock was very easy to back.
It was, wasn't it? They definitely found him, and Beat the Clock, it was his first bad run of his career, really, wasn't it?
First time out of the top three.
Yeah, so that was probably the surprise factor out of it. It was very strange to see him run that way. You just kind of expected him to kind of peel off Beauty Generation and make a race of it, but. Yeah, that was an interesting aspect of the race, I thought.
Did you have mid-race, Zac, any fleeting thoughts, as quickly as they may be, but when Hot King Prawn kicked out and went on and all, he got keen for a couple of strides, you thought, oh, here we go, it's happening again? Or you were always confident that you'd find your rhythm and had their measure?
You've always got to be open-minded in races. We went out there with the plan to lead. We thought we were going to lead. Karras said pre-race he was going to take a sit, but like Karras does, he tends to do things that you don't expect him to do. But his horse showed more speed than my guy. I couldn't get him into rhythm and couldn't get him going, and I had no option but to let those two horses cross me. And Carrying Star, unfortunately, when he crossed me, he just crossed me a little bit short. And that's why my guy got a little bit awkward on his heels. But from that point, he relaxed really well. He got on the bit. He was travelling really good. I could feel him building with confidence as the race was going on. And I was really happy with the feel he was giving me. So I allowed him to stride into the straight, which I normally do. And as I was getting to the front, I expected him to put 2 or 3 lengths on him and really kick away, but he got there, and I don't know if he's a little bit more cunning these days. He's a little bit older. He tends to have a little bit more of a relaxed attitude towards things now, and he didn't put them to the sword and put them away like I felt he was going to do, but he knew he had them covered, and like I said, that's all he's got to do.
Were you thinking though in the back of your mind, because you can see Carrying Star, you know where Hot King Prawn is, but you're thinking, where's Beat the Clock? He's going to come at some point, but he never materialised.
Yeah, I expected him to come at some point, you're right, and I was a bit surprised that he didn't come. But I felt like my horse had a little bit more up his sleeve and he was just waiting for something to come at him. He would have found a little bit more, but I'm glad nothing come to put the pressure on him. I'd rather him win like he did than have to fight for it.
Different situation on the weekend as well, Trenton, with the crowds at the moment, no one on course, so you didn't quite get that sense of, this is a Group 1 race and a Group 1 day, but, it's just another feather and, as Zac said, a bit of stardust on a career of one of Hong Kong's very best.
It was a bizarre feeling, wasn't it? Even when they crossed the line in the Gold Cup, you could hear the yelling and the screaming from the jockeys that you don't normally hear as a punter or anyone at the racetrack, so that was a different feeling, but you could still tell something pretty special had happened when Beauty Generation won again, because the owners said openly they didn't know if he was going to win again, and I don't know if you thought he was going to win again or not, but you could tell it meant something to you. You were hugging the horse when he came back in.
Yeah, of course. It was the emotion of well done, boy.
Yeah.
He's not at his best anymore, but he's still able to come out and win a Group 1 race, and it just highlights how good he really is. Yeah.
I know you can't add much to it right now. As we sit here at the moment, no decision about Dubai, but we'll know this weekend whether he goes or not, and what we assume is probably the last season of his career as well. So he either goes or he doesn't, I suppose, but exciting if he does.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have a dinner with the owners and discuss that, and weigh it all up. But like you said, it's the end of the road for him. They've said that this is most probably going to be his last season, and that means there's probably only one more run left for him here in Hong Kong. So. It'll be their decision whether they go or not.
All right, we'll find out later on. The Gold Cup, Trenton, exultant, odds-on favourite to win, but Time Warp, what a marvel he is, and what a fantastic ride as well from Joe.
It was a cracker, and he just built the pace there nicely, and made it very hard for Zac on Exultant, didn't it, the favourite? But you don't know what you're going to get with Time Warp. He's rocks or diamonds at the moment, but he produced his best, and it was good to see. It was good to see something different, and even Tony Cruz was surprised. So it was a very interesting race.
Yeah, well, Tony got the 1-2 regardless. Yeah. He's had the wins. I mean, you've had some big days on Time Warp yourself. So when you see him out in front, very hard to evaluate what you're going to get, because you might think, Time Warp's in front, he'll fold. You just don't know. Either he kicks or he doesn't.
Well, the key to him that Glorious Forever was in the race, so there was no one there putting any pressure on him. And unfortunately for me, the two jockeys that were running second and third just sat 2 or 3 lengths back off him and just let him canter. Basically, it wasn't even a mile race. They let him go that slow around the first corner and most of the way down the back straight that he basically only had to sprint home about 1,200 metres. And when you're spotting a horse of his quality, a start like that, it's very hard to peg them back.
Yeah, so he's run, he won it in 2018, last year, and comes out and wins again. So what's the future? They've said no to Dubai for Exultant. So his domestic campaign maps itself, I suppose, QE2 and Champions Chase?
Yeah, pretty much. That's all that's left for him here in Hong Kong this season. There is talk about some races overseas next season, but to run in them, he's going to have to be trained accordingly and programmed towards those races, because they do come up quite early in our season.
Yeah, and that highlights, I suppose, to a certain extent, with the likes of Time Warp, Trenton, what we're talking about with these 4-year-olds, is this is the void they're potentially filling Beauty Generation towards the end of his career, and I assume, Time Warp, time's against him as well to a certain extent.
Yeah, exactly right, and John Sizer said that he doesn't really want Waikuku going towards the 2,000 metres either, so there's an opportunity there, and for some big money races as well. So if you can get a horse that can run the trip and shows a bit of a turn of foot, there's an opportunity to have a good horse for a prolonged period here.
All right, well, there you go. That was the 2 Group 1s from Sha Tin on the weekend. Queen Silver Jubilee Cup, Beauty Generation, and Turn Back Time with Time Warp in the City Hong Kong Gold Cup. We're looking forward next, though. It's the second leg of the 4-year-old series, the Classic Cup, and the 1, 2, 3, 4 are back once more, including Golden 60, the winner, and More Than This, both from the Francis Loy stable. Welcome back to Hong Kong Direct. We're looking ahead to the $10 million Classic Cup this weekend. Next, second leg of the 4-year-old series, just a month away from the Derby. Let's have a look at some of the runners lining up this weekend.
The gold standard so far, and Golden 60 stretches his record even further. He's a terrific 4-year-old.
More Than This charging through late, enrichment and precious ship. What a grandstand finale. It's More Than This to win.
Beauty Legacy charging up the rail. He's out and after them now. Up the inside, you could have driven a double-decker bus through there, and Marrera gets him home.
Champions Way's got his head in front, wins it.
Private Secretary up the inside. This has been a bold run first up from the import, and Private Secretary.
Special guest still with us, champion jockey Zac Purton and Trenton Akers from the South China Morning Posts. The 10 runners heading to Post this weekend for the Hong Kong Classic Cup. 1,800 metres, of course, the trip. Golden 60, Classic Mile winner Vincent Ho, Francis Loy. The other Loy runner is More Than This, will be ridden this weekend by Zac Purton, with Ryan Moore switching to Champions Way. Beauty Legacy, who finished 4th in the Classic Mile. John Size, John Marrera. Private Secretary, a good winner first up at Happy Valley, a little bit disappointing on his second start. Player de Puente, possibly our pace angle, enjoying. John Moresby making some very positive noises about him. Hugh Bowman riding in to ride, some excuses on his last 2 starts. Reliable Team, Grant Vanderkirk in the saddle there. Savvy Niner down to World Famous, who's a tough win in a handicap company last time out, beating Zembel. All right, well, Zac, probably start, the best place, I suppose, is with the Classic Mile. It's the main form race coming in. Now, you rode Star Performance in this race, but switched to More Than This. What was your overall assessment of the race?
Oh, I think the best 2 horses finished 1-2, really. Golden 60 is very solid. He doesn't do anything wrong. He's got tactical speed. He puts himself in the right spot. He's got a really good turn of foot. When he lets down from the 400 to the 200, nothing can stay with him. And then he just seems to coast to the line, or if he's got a little bit extra to do, he pins his ears back and he makes sure he gets the job done. My bloke was on his tail, just had to wait for him to sprint, was left flat-footed, but finished it off really nicely. I thought it was a solid effort. So, you'd expect those 2 horses to be main contenders again.
More Than This must have come past you, though, in a bit of a hurry when he quickened, though.
Especially when I was going backwards.
There has been a little bit of a cloud over Golden 60, though, since that win, Trenton, a fever, a temperature. I mean, he lines up front. We'll hear from Vincent Ho very shortly, but it's hardly ideal, is it?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. You couldn't say he's had the best preparation going in, and you're kind of getting different signs coming out of the camp as well. Francis says he's cherry ripe and ready to go, and Vincent seems to be not so sure on the whole situation. So There's got to be a question mark over Golden 60. As good as he is, he could come out and brain them still, you don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a question mark.
Champions Way, you can't write him off completely, Zac. Last season, he looked like he was clearly going to be the one to beat, but that was a year ago. And Beauty Legacy, he's only had a couple of starts to gauge him on as well, so they're still big players.
It's an interesting race, and I think the biggest worry for myself, Beauty Legacy, and enjoying in this race is the lack of speed, really. When you get a small field, it takes the pressure out of the race, and more so when all the pace runners draw inside, draw low, they'll just jump out and comfortably get their positions, and the horses drawn wide, they're going to have to drag back to get in. It's not a recipe for success for a horse like mine. So I'm going to need someone at some stage to put some speed or some pressure into the race.
And he was very slow out of the gates more than this, wasn't he? Ryan was really working at him in the early stage.
I can't work it out because I've ridden him in 2 barrier trials recently. One at Happy Valley where I sat outside the leader, and one here at Sha Tin after that running the mile. He came back to a 1200 metre barrier trial and he just jumped out and wanted to run. So I don't know whether he gets to race day and it's the afternoon and he just lays back in the sun a little bit more and gets a bit more relaxed. But I'm going to have to see how he is on race day. But he has begun well the 2 times I've ridden him recently.
All right, okay. Well, before we get into the rest of the runners, let's hear from Vincent Ho. He'll be riding Golden 60 and his thoughts coming into the race.
Amazing horse, you know. One of the best horses I've ridden. And unfortunately, he got some issue earlier, and it's still on the progress of recovering. He's getting his fitness back. I don't think he's at his top at the moment, but you know, he's coming back gradually, and I worked him on the grass, and this morning on the dirt, he still felt okay.
Okay, good news there. Touching on that last start, when he was a little keen in the early stages, how did you get him to come back underneath you?
It's always a bit hot, and he can be keen for sure, even in 1200. But once he got cover, he settled well, and especially at a turn, he usually settled very well. 1800 this time, from barrier 7, which is pretty good. You just need him to relax behind horses, and he'll have a good turn of foot.
Well, there you go. There's Vincent on Golden 60. Be interested to see what the market does, reacts to that, whether it sends him off favourite or not. But he is quite a laid-back character, Vincent. But he's definitely sort of, he's got concerns coming into the weekend.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
You never want to have a horse have a virus so close to a race, or whatever he had. His bloods were obviously off and he's been a little bit down. It can take more out of them than what you think. They can still work well, but it's under race pressure when you have to ask them for the maximum effort that you find out if they're okay or not.
Yeah, Golden 60 supporters might be rubbing their hands to get some sort of price, and he could still absolutely brain them again. But what of the others, Trenton? Are we looking at the top 4? Are they the big 4? Is there something that could surprise outside of them?
It does look like that way. This race is famous for upsets. We saw
last year.
Yeah, Mission Tycoon at any old price, and it'd be interesting to see if there's anything to the 1800 metre start. Do you think that causes that, or?
Yeah, I think what happens, because it's such a long run down the back straight, and like I touched on in this race, there's a likelihood of those horses drawn inside just being able to fall out of the gates because they're not going to be under any pressure, and just be allowed to roll like Time Warp, to slowly roll through the first part of the race and get it very easy, and the main contenders are going to be back in the field and then they sprint home.
Yeah.
It could cause the upset.
Yeah.
It's there. The writing's on the wall for it to happen.
All right. We had a big upset, like you mentioned, last year, Trenton. But do you see an upset this year?
Oh, not so much an upset of sorts. I thought Champions Way would probably definitely run another big race. He's probably going to be pretty handy to the speed and might kind of take the pace factor out of the equation. So I thought he'd be a nice bet. Yeah.
You're excited and obviously happy with your mount as well, Zac?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be on him. I like what I feel. I like what I see. I don't like the makeup of this race, but going forward, I think he's the right horse to be on.
All right, that's more than this then for Zac and Champions Way. I'm with Zac on this one, more than this. Trenton with Champions Way. As far as the diary's concerned, looking forward to this weekend. We've got the Classic Cup, Happy Valley next Wednesday, 9 races at Happy Valley. And of course, we're looking further down the track, March 22nd for the big one itself That is the Derby. Looking forward to that. So we're just about out of time. We're going to finish this week with a Derby from 2015. That was Luger. Zac, you were on board for John's size. And it was a pickup ride, wasn't it, for you as well?
It was a late pickup ride, yeah. Douglas White had been riding 2 horses all the way through, and he elected to ride another horse.
Giant Treasure, I think, yeah.
I hadn't committed to anything. There I was, yeah.
It was just very quickly on the ride itself, because Darren Flindell, through the call, said something like, Luger, he's going to have to be good to win under these circumstances, because you've drawn wide and just let him roll, but he is and was very good.
Oh, I couldn't get in. I was 3 wide, no cover. It wasn't the best ride. I've had plenty of rides in the Derby where I've ridden a lot better races than that one, but I was a victim of circumstances. Sometimes you just can't get in. It's just the way it is. And I just got him into a nice rhythm, and he was moving well, he was breathing well. He come into it with a little bit of confidence, but you still have to have the horse to be able to do it. He showed on the day he was clearly the best horse in the race, and I'm glad I was given that opportunity.
All right, well, that's brilliant. We'll look back on it now. Thank you, Zac. Thank you, Trenton, as well. So here it is, Luger, the 2015 Derby for John Sides and Zac Purton. Hopefully we'll catch you again on the weekend for the Classic Cup. We'll bring all the action from Hong Kong direct to you.
Luger, he'll have to be good to win the Derby under these circumstances. Then Thunder Fantasy from further back to Giant Treasure, getting to the outside. Redkirk Warrior, he's 3 back over on the fence. Gun Pit off the course from Beauty Only. Got Fly getting shuffled back from Anticipation. Then Romantic Touch, Helene Happy Star, and Golden Sleeper still bar last as they level around the corner now. Zoomion goes for the whip on Obliterator. Contentment sticks on. Luger keeps coming. So does Giant Treasure on the outside. Got Flyers squeezing into the clear, and then Beauty Only as Luger races to the lead from Giant Treasure. Got Fly, and further back to the inside is Romantic Touch. It's Luger in front in the Derby. Romantic Touch and Got Fly giving chase. Luger just in front. Purton relentless here, and he gets Luger home in the Derby.